Okay, I got some problem solved. I've been able to figure out a way to use a token to insert um, the title of a related piece of content or the URL or something else into a text area. But I want to go beyond that. I want to be able to make a link to another piece of content or even render another piece of content inside my text area. And for that, I'm going to have to find something else because the solutions I've got so far don't quite work. There's another interesting module that I can try, and I'm just going to demonstrate how that works, although it doesn't quite work the way I need it to. And it's called Advanced Entity Tokens. And when I enable Advanced Entity Tokens, and I go back to my content, and take a look at the options that are available to me when I insert something. So I can say insert something here, and then I pull it up. And if I look down this whole long list of tokens that I have available, I have these AET tokens, which are the Advanced Entity Tokens. So I can insert a node token in here. And the way that this works is I have to know the ID of the node that I want to render, but I can do something like that, and that means insert node 4 here, and then I can also do view teaser. I want the teaser view of node 4. And save that. And there we go. And I now have the teaser view of node 4 embedded in here. It's a couple of problems. One is I've got these contextual links. I have the contextual module enabled, and the contextual links are showing up in the embedded node, which I don't want. But the bigger problem is I can't make that relative to a field value or something. I have to actually know the node ID for that to work. So that actually does not quite behave the way that I want. And so now I'm down to some custom code. But I have some custom code, whoops. But I have some custom code that will work. And so I'm going to look at this. I created a module called custom. And it's right here. And it's a really simple module, or it's not a really simple module, it's a fairly simple module. So I got to do two things. I've got to implement hook token info, which means I want to add a custom token to the tokens that already exist. And then I have to do hook tokens. And hook token means here's where I say the hook info is where I indicate that I have a token, and then this is the point where I do the replacement. So I'll do whatever replacement I want to do. And I actually want two different kinds of tokens. I want a way to link to a related item, and then I want a way to render a related item. So I create two options for me here, and I'm putting them in a group called custom because my module is called custom. This would be typically this would be the name of my module, which happens to be custom at this point. I always want to do that because I want to make sure that I don't have name collisions with some other existing token. And so what I'm going to say is I'm going to use these patterns. So I'm going to say my link pattern is going to look like this. It's going to be custom : I always want to start with the name of my module, and then link, which is the subname. My module provides two different tokens. One's link, one's render. And then the next thing would be which item, because this is a multiple value item, and I have to be able to say which of the multiple values am I talking about. And then for the link one, I've added the option for a text override. So I can say I want some text to override the title. Instead of using the node title, I want to have some text override. I can't put spaces into a token, so I can put a double % because I'll just do a replacement when I render the item. So I just use the double % instead of spaces, but most other characters that are likely to be in a title should work okay. And then on the render item, I'm going to do a slightly different pattern. I'm going to say I want to do custom, and then render says what type of token am I looking for. Again, which item. I want to render the first thing on that related field. and I want to render it using the teaser view mode, so I can use a view mode here. And then down here is where it does the work of rendering the thing. So hook tokens passes me something, and basically I check to see is this my token. So I check the type, and the type tells me whether or not this is my token, because I'm going to ignore all the other tokens. And this is my token. So if it's type custom, because I named it custom up here. So if a type is custom, then I'm going to go to work. And so I'm going to hard code some values because I'm writing this custom module effects to fill a specific need. I could get crazy and make those part of the parameters so that you actually just could input these values as additional parameters in there, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to say the entity type is node, and the field name is the field related content. And so I'm going to check and see. I get a data array, and the data array should have, so if I'm looking for a node, I should see data node, and that would be the node object that I'm putting this token on. Now I'm going to check and see if it exists. If it doesn't exist, I've got nothing I can do anyway, so I'll just return. If it does exist, I've got my base entity to start with. And then I'm going to start down the tokens list. And the tokens list is going to be what actual tokens exist in the piece of content that I'm currently looking at. So it's going to iterate through that list of tokens. I'm going to explode whatever list of values that I want using the colon or the semicolon. No, that is a colon. And I'm going to say, okay, the first thing in that array is going to be the action part of this. It's either going to be link or render. So that tells me what action am I going to do. The second thing in there is going to be the delta value. And I went ahead and made this a user-friendly delta. We know that the delta is going to start with 0, and 0 is the first item and 1 is the second item. But we're going to make this user-friendly, and we're basically going to just do the math. And so somebody can enter 1 to mean the first item. And then I could hard code everything knowing that this is a node, but I went ahead and developed this code so that it would work on any kind of entity so that I could use the same code for other things besides nodes. So what I do is I use entityGetInfo to find out what's the callback for getting a path, what's the callback for viewing it, what's the callback for the key and the label. And then I'm going to use those values instead of just assuming it's node. So then I'm ready. I've got the node that I'm looking at. I'm viewing the node, and I'm going to do field get items. So basically what I'm going to do is pull out the values for this entity reference field that I'm interested in and get those values. Now one thing that happens is that what I get back is slightly different depending on whether it's a visible or a hidden field. So if the field is visible, I actually will already have the related entities and I can use them. But if the field is hidden, all I'll have is the ID, and I'm going to have to load it if I want to use it. So that's what this little bit of code is about. And at that point now I've got the base entity that I started with, and now I've got this related entity for the item of the token, the particular token that I'm looking for. And then I do a switch, and if it's a link, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to do a replacement to clean up the title, to see if there's an override title. If there's an override title, I'm going to use it. If there's not an override title, I'm just going to use whatever the normal label is. And then I'm going to use the callback to find out what the path is. And then I'm going to say, if it returned a path, I'm going to create a link. If it didn't return a path, I'm just going to spit the title back out again. And then if my action is render, then I need to get the view mode, and the view mode would be that last little element as I specified it up here. So I could say that the view mode was teaser or whatever. And if the view mode isn't specified, I could say, my default's going to be token, or it could be default. And then I use the view callback, so this would be a kind of equivalent to node view, except that this way, again, it's going to work on other kinds of entities if I need it to. And I will get an array back, And that problem that I pointed out, which is contextual links may be set. If I'm doing a node display, there may be contextual links on there that I don't want, so I can unset them. I can do whatever other cleanup I need to do so that it renders the right thing, and I can say, in the case of this, I'm going to actually render the item. So let's go see what that looks like. And it would look like, so when I do insert, and again, if I scroll back down here, I'm going to see I've got some custom, they're buried down here somewhere. There it is. So I've got a custom, my custom link that I added, and I can add something to it. I want to do a custom link to the first item, and I want to give it a title override of more stuff, and then I have some more text after that, so that my link is going to be embedded here. And I save that, double check that I actually do have related content, because this isn't going to do anything if I don't. And we see that we now have a link that shows up, and it has a link, and if I click on that link, it takes me to that node. So that worked fine. And I can go back here and let's get crazy. And we'll put both a link. So first we'll do a link to the first item using the overrides, and then let's do a link to the second item that does the teaser view of the item. So the first item is node 1 and the second item is node 4. Save that. And I scroll down, and there's my text override link to node 1. And here's my teaser view of node 4. So that all worked. Now the only other thing that I might want to do to make this a little bit easier is this mess. There's just way too much stuff here. So now that we know what we want to do, let's limit that list a little bit. And I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to add a form alter. And this form alter is just doing a form alter of the WYSIWYG insert form. And I'm just going to set this up basically to say, I'm just going to create my own little custom options list. I'm going to replace that big long list of every possible token with just the things that I actually want in here. And I'm going to provide some help text. I'm going to basically go ahead and pre-fill out the first item, because I'm going to assume most of the time it's going to be the first item, and something that helps them to see that, you know, that's where the text override goes and that's where the teaser goes. And then a more user-friendly description: insert a link to related content item and display a related content item. And I need to clear the cache so that it's going to pick that change up. And go back and edit one more time. And now I have a much simpler list. I have insert a link to a related content item, or display a related content item. Still inserts the same token, but a little bit easier for an editor to use. So it's a way to render an item inside another item, or link to an item inside another item. The easy lookup is using the related content field, so you can use that to do a quick and easy lookup of whatever related content you want, and then you can inject it in here using the token insert. And that's how I solved that problem.